Back with you on Daily Wager. Let's hit the NFL now and talk Arizona Cardinals. Former #1 overall pick Kyler Murray enters year 2 under Cliff Kingsbury. How about this? 16-1 to win the MVP. Sixth shortest odds on the board. The 23-year-old is 15-1 to lead the league in passing, and his prop for over-under passing yards is just under 3780 yards. All right, let's bring in the guys here, Tyler and Joe. Tyler, we'll start with you. Where do you stand here with Murray and some of those props?
Yeah, the MVP odds, I'm staying away from that. That's just ridiculous.
Ludicrous, right?
We talked the other day about Aaron Rodgers being 25-1. That's tremendous value for Aaron Rodgers. The value on Kyler Murray just is not there. However, I do love the prop on his passing yardage total. If we take a look at what Kyler Murray and this Cliff Kingsbury offense did a season ago, guys, in terms of their pace, they were 4th in the NFL in plays ran per minute. You drop that into neutral situations where the game's within one score, they were the 2nd fastest team in the NFL. Even when they were leading by a touchdown or more, usually you want to run the ball, salt the clock. No, they were the 7th fastest team in that situation. They were honestly, they were surprisingly their slowest when they were trailing relative to the score. So for me, Kyler Murray going to take a jump in year 2, second year with Cliff Kingsbury, adding DAndre Hopkins, a full year of Kenyon Drake, who is a great pass catcher out of the backfield. To me, this seems like it is way too low. I think he smashes this and goes well over 4,000 yards in his sophomore campaign as far as throwing the ball through the air. The rushing total, I'm still not sure how Kingsbury wants to use him, but we know he's going to throw the rock. That DeAndre Hopkins, Christian Kirk, and Larry Fitzgerald are there. I think it's an easy smash for the over on his passing yardage total.
If nothing else, he'll have more opportunities on 4th and short inside the 20. They won't be kicking as many field goals. Kingsbury, were you joining him on this?
I am. I'm worried, though, because it feels too easy on the passing yards prop. He missed this last year by just 58 yards, and he was a rookie with a rookie head coach. So now he's got the experience you're talking about coming back in year 2. He's also got DeAndre Hopkins, one of the baddest weapons on the planet, at his disposal. And let's not forget about this defense, guys. 32nd in total defense last year, 28th in scoring defense. They were abysmal. Even with Isaiah Simmons coming in as a top 10 pick, they might get a little bit better, but this team is still going to be throwing late in the 4th quarter on a consistent basis. I like the over here for the pass.
I think that's the key. They're going to be in a lot of high-scoring games, at least if they're going to be scoring, because their defense certainly not stopping anyone. Their division also has some pretty good offenses as well. See about the Niners, though. They tend to bleed the clock. Let's go out to Connecticut, bring in a friend of the program, Mike Clay. Mike, time to talk nerdy to me, as we like to say on the podcast. Joe mentioned the new toy for Kyler Murray. DeAndre Hopkins comes over in an offseason trade with the Houston Texans. His over-under is 8.5 touchdowns. What are you expecting from Hop this year?
It's too high. Look, I get it. I like the offense. I think the Cardinals do take another leap in Kingsbury and Murray's 2nd season, and that's obviously a great weapon for him. But 8.5 touchdown catches is too high. Look, Hopkins has been under 7 receiving touchdowns, which is well below this line, in 4 of his 7 seasons. And that is while missing 2 games and averaging right around 148 targets per game. History says it's hard to count on that level of target share that he's seen the past few seasons in Houston in a new offense. You also have to consider this Kingsbury offense last season scored 53% of their touchdowns through the air. That is 4th lowest in the NFL. And by the way, this is a high number. 9 touchdowns, only 6 receivers got there last season. So, it's just the line is too high, even though I love this situation. My projection, guys, comes in at 7.7.
Okay, so just under that, about a touchdown under. Do we have any sort of reference point in football history to kind of model this over and crunch numbers with that in mind? Just a top-tier receiver going to a new team that's already got a decent or solid offense.
Yeah, absolutely. History does say that guys that have these high target shares who switch teams tend to see a pretty significant plummet the next season. In fact, almost all of them will see a lower number. So I'm not getting too wrapped up in that because he is going to be the centerpiece. You can talk about Larry Fitzgerald and Christian Kirk and Dan Arnold at tight end and Kenyon Drake out of the backfield. They have other mouths to feed. I still think it's going to be Hopkins as the clear number 1, but I do think it would be a little risky to assume he stays fully healthy and pushes to that 150 number. So again, that's why I'm coming in just a little bit short on this number.
All right, Mike, stand by. We're going to come back to you in just a moment. I want to talk about another former #1 overall pick at the quarterback position, and that's Baker Mayfield. It's always dangerous trying to bet on the Browns or against them. They're a little bit of a liability. Hey, 50-1 for Baker Mayfield to win the MVP at Caesars. Last year, you might remember, He was 10-1, which is among the favorites. It was the fourth lowest. They were the talk of the town a year ago. And actually, the previous years, they got a lot of quote-unquote sharp money that ended up being quite dull. But the over-under in passing touchdowns, 23.5. So new coaching staff in, no more Freddie Kitchens. Stefanski comes over from the Vikings. What are you expecting from Mayfield this year?
Yeah, I'm actually going to go under on the passing yards here. 3,849.5 yards at minus $1.10. I really like the under on this one. Look, last season he played almost every snap for that Cleveland offense. He was 10th in the NFL in pass attempts, and he was short of this mark. Now you have Kevin Stefanski coming in, who's going to operate a run-heavy offense as he did in Minnesota. The personnel moves in the offseason have pretty much dictated that they're going to run the football. And if you think about that offense last season in Minnesota, Kirk Cousins was one of the most efficient and effective quarterbacks in the NFL. He was 24th in pass attempts and barely cleared 3,600 passing yards. So what's Baker Mayfield going to do? I think he'll be short of that mark. We can't count on full health. We can't count on 99% of the dropbacks again. I'm at 34-54, guys. So this one is not even close. I'm hammering the under.
All right, Mike, thank you, and great job with the Fantasy Football Marathon. Keep your phone available on Sunday. I have my big league drafting this weekend. Back with the fellas here, Joe and Tyler. Tyler, where do you stand here with Mayfield? Actually, hold that thought. We're going to get to the team options here in terms of on the betting menu at Caesars. 8.5 is your win total, over minus $1.20. The yes, no for the playoffs. Remember, an extra playoff team, extra wild card team in each conference. The no is minus $0.25. So Browns are favored to miss the playoffs this year. And the division, the plus 450, because remember, the Ravens in that division off the 14-win season, and also the Steelers are there getting Big Ben back, and we know how bad their quarterback play was a year ago. As I said, back with the fellas. Joe, how are you approaching the Browns this year?
Certain things in life you make sure to invest in. You invest in your mental health, you invest in your physical health, you invest in good toilet paper. You do not, under any circumstance, invest in the Cleveland Browns. Since they came back in business in 1999, they've won 9 games twice in 21 years. 9 games twice in 21 years. One playoff appearance, it was in 2002. It was a loss. Now, based on if this was any other team, their record in one-score games, their turnover differential from last year, it points to a bounce-back season. But it's the Browns. We've been there before. The banana in the tailpipe, over and over and over again. This is a story. This is a party that I'd rather be late on than early to. I'm not buying the Browns. I think they missed the playoffs once again.
So new staff, forget it. The dysfunction runs.
It's always
from
a
the
new
90s.
Staff. It's a new staff every year.
Yeah, I know. The glass half full. We're getting sick of this. We're going to dump out the water all completely. What about you, Tyler?
Ironically enough, toilet paper's been necessary for the Cleveland Browns.
I didn't want to go there. I thought it, but you know.
In recent years, with some of the things that's happened with that
it's
organization.
just out of the park.
I'm a Cottonelle guy, by the way, not Charmin. The number 8.5 to me, that seems too high. I'm going to stay away from that. If I do bet it, I'm going to go under there. I think there was one division last year that had 3 teams finish above 500. That was the NFC West. So they got to get to 9 to cash this ticket. I don't see that. However, some value might be had at that plus 105 to make the playoffs because of the point you made, Doug. We get 7 teams from each conference into the postseason. So we could very likely see a 7 or 8 win team make the playoffs in 2020. And the Browns do have the talent. I do think Stefanski will be better than Freddie Kitchens there. A little more credibility as far as coaching. But when you have Odell Beckham, when you have Nick Chubb, when you have Kareem Hunt, when you have Jarvis Landry, when you have some of the pieces they have on defense, Myles Garrett will be back this year. That is a team that I kind of like for value as far as making the playoffs, but 9 wins for me. I'm not going to invest that. I'll go buy my Cottonelle instead with my money than bet a ticket on them getting to 9 wins.
It's a great point about the yes, no, and the over 8.5. They're essentially the same price. The yes is plus 0.5. The over 8.5 is flat. Do you think there's a better chance they go 9 wins and miss the playoffs versus 8 and make the playoffs? Because you can kind of get one and without the other, so it's something to consider. You have to factor in other teams with both props, essentially. So that's something, a little food for thought. We'll dive into that. Don't forget, Daily Wager will return to its usual time slot in about 2 weeks, September 8th, 6 Eastern on ESPN2.
Thanks for watching ESPN on YouTube. For live streaming sports and premium content, subscribe to ESPN+.